front of our shins. The awareness onto the front of our shins. The weight of the body being delivered down the front of the shins, not the back. As we move in the way that we think we are constructed, how does it feel to remember that the tip of the tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth as displayed on the screen? No matter what value we're speaking, welcome everyone, good morning. It is Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021, 5:36 a.m., a True Love Tuesday, November 2, 2021, November 2nd, 2021. How art thou? Can you believe we are already in the second last month of the year? We are already on the second day of the second to last month of a year. How are you doing out there? How are you feeling? How does it feel to be wherever you are, whether you are joining us live through YouTube, whether you are out there in a VOD somewhere, a video on demand, watching us sometime in the future? Welcome back to another True Love Tuesday on Pow Go On. In this simulation of ours in which we die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with a breath, are we ready to hold our controller properly today? How do we hold our controller properly today? We invite you to pretend that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. We invite you to pretend that there is a lit candle just flickering right in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. And you're not thinking about inhaling or exhaling necessarily. Simply that there is a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. And how might your body react? Today on True Love Tuesday, it is November 2, 2021. It is a Tuesday, which means it is a True Love Tuesday when we here on Pow Go On, we will be discussing the relationship between the two sexes. A deep dive. Today, our theme is distance. Feeling so good from the inside out, better than your morning would feel without. Stretching our self-awareness like a muscle every morning. Please allow all of these words to go in one ear, out the other, as we are just speaking and attaching ourselves to the meanings, not necessarily the literal words that are always being said. We will be right back after this short break to talk about distance on this True Love Tuesday. But only if you remember that the back 1/3 of the tongue is vertical, up and down, up and down. Are we remembering that we are movers? We are movers, and we move in the way in which we think. We are constructed. Why? Because you are so incredibly amazing. You and that mind and that body of yours are so incredibly amazing that you move in the way that you think you are constructed. We are indeed movers. Why is it so? Isn't that why it is so important for our idea of what we are, our conceptualization of ourselves, to be so consistent with the physical reality, because one of those is not changing. So if we move in the way which we think we are constructed, might it be better to think closer to the truth? As these bones will not change in structure just based on how we are thinking. So we can align ourselves closer to the way that we think, closer to the way that these bones are actually. For example, understanding that the weight-bearing portion of the spine, if you didn't know out there, the weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front, not the back. Again, if you would say it with me, the weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. And that's how it goes. You might not be to blame to believe that the weight-bearing portion of the spine was the back, due to us calling it the back and saying stuff like, keep your back straight against the wall. We might think to put our weight there as we move in the way that we think we are constructed. So if we thought that our spine was this back, we might see that the weight we might try to place weight on the back instead of realizing that the weight bearing portion of the spine is this big, larger portion right here. And how might our body change in the way that it balances with itself? Its relationship with itself should be aligned closer to the truth. And have faith in the truth. Might it feel better to align to truth so that we can be more free in the moments and not be uncertain, as we know that uncertainty kills freedom like no other. Uncertainty kills freedom, which kills happiness like no other. Uncertainty kills freedom, which kills happiness. The death of happiness means the death of freedom, means the death of happiness, as we know. And doesn't uncertainty kill freedom like nothing else? Today on the True Love Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021, as we are stretching our self-awareness, wherever you are, we're stretching our self-awareness about love today. The heck distance is? What do we think distance is? Why does distance make the heart grow fonder? How much distance is too much distance? How much distance is not enough distance? What might be the deeper implications of wanting distance in relationships between the two sexes? Not even necessarily strictly romantically, as we all encounter two sexes daily. We'll be right back to talk about this distance thing. What do we think what's there? Why do we need distance in a relationship? What does it imply? Be right back. Here on Padawan.
go back home yet. I don't wanna seize this moment. It just doesn't sit right. Tell me I'm one in a million east side. Can I make love show emotion? Can I show up when I'm...
Are we remembering to feel the front of our shins today? And that remember that our feet are not L's, but arches. Indeed, they are not L's, but we have arches for feet. Let's reduce some distance. Here we are talking about distance today on this True Love Tuesday, while always holding this controller properly, breathing well to overcome all internal suffering. How? By pretending there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. It's just flickering there, like a birthday candle, and you're just trying to not put it out. And you're not thinking about exhaling, and you're not thinking about inhaling necessarily. Simply that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. Distance. Might we say it's scary to have too much distance in a relationship? Now, if we're talking not husbandry and wifery, distance, what do you guys think about distance? You need distance to make sure that the heart grows fonder. You need distance to make sure that people have time to be themselves and identify how they are feeling without fear of judgment. As sometimes we need to act out in order to see ourselves act, in order to see how we feel about things. We need to be forgiven for all of those moments in order that we are just drawing into the thin air in order to see ourselves better. And then we can make decisions. Don't we need distance to be able to do that? Isn't distance sometimes a good thing? As so much growth can only happen by being alone. Does this change in marriage? Perhaps to a degree. I guess one day you and I will see. Of course, you are living together, but distance, as it were, always butts its head, as we cannot always be at the same spot at all times with any person, unless you are conjoined. But even then, when you fall asleep, maybe your consciousness is separate. Distance. Do you need distance in order to evaluate who one is? What does it mean for, on this True Love Tuesday, what does it mean for two people to be in love? Should those two people have a slim or fuzzy, blurry idea of what each of them are individually? What exactly is in love if both of them are blurry focused beings with no sense of self yet? How does a sense of self arise? Probably by being alone, to some degree. Might there be a large issue in the world in finding love now that we have such a hard time being alone for some of our lives? Most of our lives. Increasingly, people spend more time in their parents' houses, underneath parent rule, not allowed to make mistakes and get judged on those mistakes by the world, but rather their own parents, which are a crazy mismatch or a crazy mishmash of a relationship that's built over 20 plus years 18 plus years, in which one of the parties was too young to understand what they were doing for much of that period. Is there difficulty in us finding love in the world right now due to us having a blurry sense of self due to never being available to being alone? Is it difficult to find our love in the world these days on this True Love Tuesday, as so much of our personalities are enmeshed with those in which were made to feel we had to compromise with longer than we were meant to, longer than we should have for our individual development? Is it harder to find love in the world these days as we are so enmeshed with our families that we love and become personalities, outgrowths of what's necessary in our families? Is it difficult to accept ourselves and to understand ourselves in the mess in all that is, as we are all these messy, tangled up, wired human being machines that began constructing our own personalities at such a young age before we even understood how to get ourselves out of our situations, or even to understand what the situation that we were in with our crazy families. Have we lost out on our ability to love and to receive the love that we wanted simply by being unable to be alone and to be distant, to have distance between us and anyone else? Did we rob ourselves the ability to receive and give the love that we want by being unable to be alone? By being unable to create distance between ourselves and our loved ones? Who are we? Who are we, and what do they love about us? What do we love about ourselves? What is there to love? Should we not know ourselves? Should we not be alone to see what we are to begin with? What is there to love? What exactly are we loving? If we are never alone to begin with to identify or integrate into what we are by ourselves. What exactly are you loving with no identity of what the self is, when we are still a combination of a combo of all the love that we want to give and to receive by the people around us? What exactly are we when we're still a combination of that love that we just want to give to others? What exactly are we when we do not spend this time being alone? What exactly are we if we cannot create some distance? What exactly is in love should you not know what we are? How can we love what we do not know? Can we even know what we know? Can we even know what we know should we not spend time alone to see what our lens is? What lens we view the world through? What lens possibly we might have been looking through at the world simply virtue of the people around us, trying to fit in, trying to not create disturbance for the family? How might our lens change once we become alone again? Once we create some distance between us and those who we feel the need to be close to or agreeable with? How might our lens change in the world? And so how might the way we view love, and how might the love that we receive change as our lens changes? Distance between anything that is loved, in order to see what exactly is loving and what exactly is being loved. In order for those parties, those two parties, to each individually be more clear to itself and to the other what exactly is being loved, what exactly must be done to love. what kind of trauma, what kind of experiences, what kind of ability to cope, what kind of ability to handle hardship actually surfaces. Actually becomes clear when distance is created and one is alone. To be clearer on what is being loved and what must be done to love such an individual. What problems exist exactly in order to be loved. As we know that love is the truth without hatred. Similar to reminding everyone that the weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. The truth without hatred. Your body might not be feeling that right now. It might be difficult, but it is the truth. Without hatred, in order to communicate information that is not colored with emotion, but rather more just descriptive and accurate. It's about naming, not blaming, right? As we are naming that the weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front, but we might not blame you if that's not happening right now. What's the point in adding emotion like that? Over-emotionalism in order to distort the message. Simply the awareness is enough. The truth without hatred. As the human body, you, this window to this godlike experience that you are, is already so amazing that the awareness is enough. The rest of the body knows what to do. It wants to feel balanced. It already knows it wants to. By allowing the weight to be divided into these rainbow arches as this pelvis bone, knowing that you do not sit on your legs, but we do remember that the weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. And if you would, please remember to keep all hands and legs inside the vehicle as we remember to feel the front of our shins this morning. We'll be right back after this short break to get to the second half of the show. We'll be addressing any comments, chats, or donations, or what do they call them? Text-to-speeches at the beginning, middle, and end of the show. We'll be right back. My name is Herbie, and this has been Palgo One. Right back. Talk about distance. Trailer Tuesday. Are we remembering to feel the fronts of our shins? Feeling so good from the inside out, better than your morning would feel without. In the simulation of ours in which we die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with a breath. Please allow all of these words to go in one ear and out the other as we are stretching our self-awareness like a muscle this morning. How are you? How art thou? Welcome back to the second half of the show here. My name is Herbie. My name is Herbie. And this is Pal Go On. It is a Tuesday today. Are you out there with the friends? Hello. Or are you out there alone? Watching an AVOD or watching live in a library maybe? Or possibly on a TV somewhere or on your phone. It is November 2nd. Can you imagine already? It's November 2nd, 2021. It is Tuesday, 6:03 a.m. 55 seconds, 56 seconds, 57 seconds, 58 seconds, 59 seconds, 6:04 a.m. How are you? It is a True Love Tuesday. So, looking at you and all your friends, we are talking about the relationships between the two sexes today. Does that mean we are all talking about one of the sexes or the other sexes? Or rather, are we always talking about romanticisms? Or just the relationships between the two sexes? At some point in time, we interact with this dynamic, this rare dynamic between the two sexes. Today we are talking about distance. We are talking about distance. Why might we even need it? Possibly to understand who exactly we are, to know what we are loving. And from the male perspective, what is this distance thing? Well, as most things are. Contextually, most things are. Having to do with expectations versus reality. Distance can be a good thing, can be a bad thing, depending on the expectation of versus reality. As we are pretending that there's a candle in front of our lips that we're each trying to not put out. And remembering that the tip of our tongues want to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Might distance imply certain information depending on the situation. Have you ever seen situations in which distance might be a bad thing? Avoidant, possibly. Do we know any avoiders? I'm sure we have all been avoiders at some point. As handling difficult situations can be pretty rough. Especially without any tools to overcome any kind of shame, embarrassment, pride, fear, all these very natural conditions that we go through. As we are remembering that the back 1/3 of our tongue is vertical indeed, the tip of our tongues want to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. What is our relationship with distance, wherever we are? Have we ever been in a relationship that was completely devoid of distance? Have we ever been in one in which we felt like we were quote unquote enmeshed? Felt as though having any kind of distance was a dangerous thing? Have we had any relationships that we stayed in that felt dangerous to be too close together? Was there any relationship that we had that was dependent on having enough distance? Is our relationship with our mother possibly one that improves with distance? How about our fathers? Does having not enough distance or forcing a certain amount of closeness describe a frailness in one of the parties or both of the parties? And as we are looking at all the meanings always on Padawan and not just what is happening, but does this frailness not, do we not see the meaning of a frail relationship, of being unstable and possibly being unreliable? And we are finite human beings. We know that we only have so much time on this earth, so we are hyper alert to what might be wasting such time of ours. Is there something about this frailness in wanting not enough distance or being unable to handle any distance that we can see the meaning of, in that we have a short time on earth and we might be hyper aware to anything that might be wasting our time? And so do we feel an appropriate amount of uncertainty regarding a relationship that is devoid of distance? We've all been there. We've all been there. At some point, we've all been so enamored, we've all been so infatuated that any kind of distance felt like a waste of time. Does that express any kind of idea of what limited amount of time one feels, and how limited of one's time does one feel when someone feels as if they're unable to overcome? Weak. How might one be weak? Well, Herbie, that is not a nice thing to say. You can't say that people are weak. Or can you not say that people are weak because you think you can't do anything about it? Are we not allowed to say that people are weak because we're not allowed to say people are weak? Or is it because we have some distorted idea that people cannot become strong? Would we not point out the wheels, the flat wheels on someone's car? Would we not point out flat tire on someone's car so that they might fix that flat tire? Why are we allowed to say that and not allowed to say that people are weak? Possibly because we understand that you can easily fix a tire, but we do not feel that you can easily fix a person. Well, my friends, we challenge you to pretend that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. We challenge you to not think about exhaling or inhaling necessarily, but simply to let this candle flicker in front of your mouth that you are trying to not put it out. And then next, I want you to think about how the back 1/3 of your tongue is vertical, up and down, up and down. And how the tip of your tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Again, there's a candle in front of your lips that you are trying to not put out. The back 1/3 of your tongue is vertical, up and down, up and down. And the tip of your tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Might being unable to handle distance embody something deeper about an inability to feel strong. You can't say people are weak if they can't handle anything. You can't say people who cannot handle distance are weak. Why not? Why can't you point out, how come you can point out that a tire is flat on a car but not that someone is weak? Well, because we have a solution to the car tire, but we think we don't have a solution to the weakness. But we'll be right back after this short break. But only if you remember that there's a candle in front of our lips that you're trying to not put out. You're on Pag 1. To allow the weight to be delivered down the front of the spine and into those rainbow arches at all of the times. Welcome to the last portion of the show today. My name is Herbie. This is Pow Go On. It is November 2nd, 2021. Already. It is a Tuesday, which means it is a True Love Tuesday. We have been talking about distance today. Come through. We have been talking about distance today. Distance makes the heart grow fonder. As with all things, is it not just expectation versus reality? Is it any sort of distance? We can never be sure, as humans are so infinite. Is there ever such a thing as too much or too little distance? Is it like all things here on Pow Go On, simply our relationship with our ability to handle it? And can we handle it individually? Can we handle it? Can we handle anything, any sort of internal suffering, which loops in on out to deal with external suffering? Can we handle it? Can we handle any internal suffering? Can we handle distance between ourselves and our loved ones? Is that not what is really being tested? Is that not what is really being loved or sought after? Can we handle it? Can we handle any distance that we might need to create? Can we handle it? Is it possible that not having enough distance sometimes makes it so you cannot practice it, so it means you cannot handle the distance? Possibly. Can you handle the distance though? Well, of course, because we can handle the distance though. If we are remembering that we die every 5 minutes in the simulation of ours, but that timer is reset with every breath that you take. We are inviting you to hold this controller properly today with us here on Palgawan by pretending that there is a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. No matter where you are, whether you are here or out there on a star. Maybe you are on the freeway, driving a Ferrari. No matter where in the world that you are, we invite you to pretend that there is a candle in front of your lips and in front of every human being's lips that we are all trying to not put out. Our own little candle that we are each trying to not put out. And we're not thinking about exhaling. We're not thinking about inhaling. Wherever you are, remembering that the back 1/3 of the tongue is vertical. This distance thing. As we're stretching our self-awareness like a muscle every weekday morning, I wonder how many of us have been in relationships in which the amount of distance was always in question of how much was comfortable. Have we had any relationships that felt great being so close together until eventually simmering out, spending too much time together and not knowing how much is too much, not knowing how little is too little, and being perhaps sensitive to an incorrect amount, being unable to overcome the incorrect amount, being unable to overcome the awkwardness of wanting to spend more time with the other person and not having it reciprocated, or vice versa. How many relationships have crumbled due to us being unable to handle the individuality of another person, of having their own lives, or of us having our own lives at different times, and us being unable to resolve the distances that must have been created, the distances that were sought to reduce? How many relationships have crumbled due to an unrealistic expectation of distance and an unhandleable reality of distance? How many relationships have crumbled due to an unrealistic expectation of distance and an unrealistic view on how much they could handle, or an unrealistic ability of being able to handle the reality? One cannot always, and most times in relationships, oftentimes, completely different lives, completely different stories, completely different starting points, completely different family types, completely different everything. Many times in relationships come into the scenario where, beside from the point in which you met them, their lives might be very different from ours. How many times have relationships been crumbled due to an inability to handle these kinds of changes in the distances, as we are not always reflecting exactly how our life is at all times. As we get to learn people, we find out that there are certain obligations in their lives that perhaps were not obvious at first. And so it becomes more difficult sometimes to engage with other souls as we go on, as our lives become more and more individualized and more nuanced. Might it be scary when we see that someone cannot handle the distance that our lives naturally put between us? Might it be all right if we were able to handle it? As the second that we see one another, if we are holding resentment for some kind of one-sided distance, well, how much can that relationship grow from there already? However, if we cannot hold it against one another, by being assured about ourselves that we can handle whatever comes our way, so that we can not hold it against one another. And how do we not hold it against one another? Well, we might handle it for ourselves. Oftentimes in some relationships, they'll talk about wanting to be too close all the time. Is that an indication? Is not enough distance an indication of insecurity? How might we see distance in relationships? How might we see distance in relationships? We're talking about the men's perspective about how the working man has to create distance in order to create trust. Almost an oxymoron, right? But perhaps not too far from the truth, as we know that for parents, for the sake of parents, oftentimes the children must be moved out and perhaps married for some family households in order to be seen as completely individualized from the family. The proof is in the pudding, they say. Why does distance create more trust? Well, in a natural world, in this natural world in which we live in, where it's impossible to completely see everyone at any time, it's impossible to keep an eye on every person at all times. Distance might create trust should you come back alive. In caveman days or even now, is the proof not in the pudding should you be distanced from your loved one for 4, 5, 6 months and come back to see them that they're okay? Is that not proof in and of itself, living proof in and of itself, that they can handle this uncertain world that we live in? Can distance make the heart grow fonder simply by being proof, by living proof? We have such a hard time with faith in our current society right now, as we do not have a relationship with anything that we cannot see that becomes reliably better. However, so much of the meaning does it not happen in the times in which we are not watching. As we know for ourselves that our behavior when we are alone and when not being seen is completely different. And so is there not proof in the pudding when we can compare or have faith that distance creates a positive relationship, if allowed to, between us and what is distant? But how do we ensure a positive relationship with ourselves when we must be distant? Are we not all just looking to love someone who has a positive relationship with themselves that complements the way that we want to have a positive relationship with ourselves, so we can learn from one another? Don't we just want to fall in love with someone who has a positive relationship with themselves in a way that complements the way that you want to have a positive relationship with yourself? Isn't a relationship with yourself all that you have at the end of the day? And so don't you want to be constantly learning and inspired by someone who wants to have a similar relationship with themselves? Don't we want that in our love on this True Love Tuesday? Don't we want to be able to look up to somebody in the way that they have a relationship with themselves? As that is all that we have at the end of the day. And having someone to reflect that might be the best teacher. So how do we have this stronger relationship with ourselves? Well, for one, being able to handle distance and being alone. How do we be able to handle distance and being alone? Might we need to be able to handle distance and being alone should something happen to the partner, to the wife or the husband, God forbid? Don't we have to be able to be alone for the sake of the kids, for the sake of the family, should something happen to the wife or the husband? And so don't we look for that in one another? The ability to be alone, the ability to handle distance in unforeseen circumstances. How do we have this relationship with ourselves so that we can handle this time alone? Well, we might know ourselves better in order to overcome all internal suffering so that we can overcome all external suffering. So that we can get our body to move, to do whatever it needs to do whatever it wants to do whatever it knows it needs to do. How do we get a positive relationship with ourselves to generate that energy within us? Well, let's hold this controller properly with us. In this simulation in which we die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with a breath, we invite you to hold this controller properly with us. To invigorate some energy from within you. To overcome whatever suffering, get out of your own way, to do whatever you know that you want to do for yourself. Let's get out of our own way today. Let's be okay with handling distance. Let's pretend that there's a candle in front of our lips that we're trying to not put out. And it's just flickering there. And you're not thinking about exhaling or inhaling, you're just thinking about trying to not put this candle out. And you might be remembering that the tip of your tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. How might that feel for you? And shifting our awareness around, we might move to the back of the throat and remember that the back 1/3 of the tongue wants to be vertical, up and down, up and down. And how does that feel for you? We might notice how far forward of the body all of this feels. Please remember that you do not sit on your legs. Keep all hands and legs in the vehicle as we remember that you do not sit on your legs and the weight-bearing portion of the spine is indeed the front. I cannot believe it is November 2nd, 2021 already. And it is about to be 6:30 a.m. Good morning wherever you are, whether you are making yourself some cereal, checking in the fridge, walking around, you have us in the background, whatever you are doing, playing some music with us, or whatever it is that you might be doing out there. Thank you so much for coming through. I hope that you have gotten something out of this. I hope that you have I hope that you have had as much as fun as I have, feeling the front of my shins, pretending that there's a candle in front of my lips that we're trying to not put out. Remembering that the tip of my tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. We miss the intro music. We miss all the music. We're waiting for all the music, all the copyright-free music. If you know anybody, we are open. We are looking for some great free music, copyright-free music. There will be some soon. We're very excited. We missed the old intro, but it was copywritten, so can't be using that if we want Pago On to blast off into the future like that, you know? We do what we can, we use what we can. We're getting this message out there as we construct this building together. This cathedral together. But so far the music adventures have been going well as far as the search for the music. The music is so very important. We're gonna have all sorts of stuff. We're gonna have intro music. We're gonna have transition music. Probably some music specifically for the body integration portions. Maybe some commercials or I don't know, other silly stuff. A lot of exciting stuff, all sorts of other really cool things coming up. There have been developments for me personally, so I have been able to set my sights on closer of what Palgo 1 should go towards, so that's exciting. As in, you know, the structure of all of it and stuff, and how we want to package it. There will be more recognizable and repeatable sounds and visuals in order for the experience to be more integrated and fun and memorable. Thank you for coming through. Anybody from D Live, Twitch, YouTube, we'll be right back on D Live and Twitch when we can. You know, the multi-streaming kind of went crazy earlier this month, and we just haven't been able to sort it out. But thank you for anyone coming from Instagram, Discord, Twitter, TikTok, AOL Instant Messenger, email, telepathy, word of mouth, friends, family, foes. Thank you for coming through. Comments, chats, ice creams, all sorts of things will be like, all sorts of engagements will be addressed beginning, middle, and end of the show. Always. Felipe Mullen says, "Those cheeks." I believe he's talking about the waiting screens. There is a good shot of some glutes in there. You want to make sure you are mapping not just your bones, but your muscles, you know? Thank you, Felipe. He also says, "Is a pancake emoji, waffle emoji, breakfast acceptable in the Palgoan world?" I love this. The Palgoan world, heck yeah. Of course, we are always life-loving, you know? So if you found that you were craving a pancake emoji and a waffle emoji, or the real pancake and real waffle in real life, that's completely acceptable. You do you, as long as we are self-aware of what we are going through and life-loving always, you know? God will guide you, as in your design will guide you, not that sky god, not some naked guy in the sky, but your relationship with this with this candle, because you were craving pancake emojis. I hope you got your pancake emojis. I know you were craving it, but I don't know if you confirmed eating it, you know? I love pancakes. Pancakes are fantastic. Do you know, it's like, how many great feats, how many great activities did you participate in, or would you not have participated in if it weren't for pancakes? Maybe there was that one time where you were not motivated to talk to somebody or motivated to have a great day, but because of those pancakes, you went up and did what you did, you know? Or you relaxed when you needed to relax so that you had energy to go and do what you did. Yes, the glutes. Thank you for coming through. We will be back with more rainbow arches. And so by transitive property, more glutes. Tomorrow on Warfare Wednesday. Feeling so good from the inside out, better than your morning would feel without. Please allow all of these words to go in one ear and out the other in the simulation of hours in which we die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with a breath. We invite you to pretend that there's a candle in front of your lips to hold this controller properly with us that you're trying to not put out. My name is Herbie. Good morning, everyone, and this has been absolutely Palgo 1.
wanna seize this moment.